keynote speaker. I'm going to go through a little bit of a bio, so bear with me. Dr. Jhon Ratey is an associate clinical professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and has a private practice in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He teaches psychiatrists as a regular instructor in Harvard's continuing medical education program. As a clinical researcher, he's published more than 60 papers in peer-reviewed journals in the fields of psychiatry and psychopharmacology. He founded the Boston Center for the Study of Autism, and he founded a new study group of the American Psychiatric Association focused on the study of aggression, which grew out of his research and development of novel drug treatment for aggressive behavior. Dr. Ratey and Dr. Hollowell began studying ADHD in the 80s and co-authored Driven to Distraction, Recognizing and Coping with Attention Deficit Disorder from Childhood Through Adulthood, the first in a series of books that demystify the disorder. Dr. Ratey also co-authored Shadow Syndromes with Katherine Johnson, in which he describes the phenomenon of milder forms of clinical disorders. He most recently authored the best-selling book, A User's Guide to the Brain, Perception, Attention, and the Four Theaters of the Brain, which translates how neuroscience affects emotions, behavior, and overall psychology. He's been selected each year as one of the best doctors in America by his peers, and most recently has received the 2006 Excellence in Advocacy Award from the nonprofit group PE for Life for his work to promote the adoption of regular aerobic-based physical education. I'd like to introduce Dr. Jhon Ratey.
Aloha. I hope this all works. Okay. Well, it's been great being here on your wonderful island. Managed to... Okay. It's supposed to work. I managed to do a lot of different things, including fall off a board trying to paddle, and got Todd Bradley to tip his canoe to show me what a huli's really like, and to have to bail out. So I've had quite an experience. But anyway, the issue at hand, and everyone has sort of echoed what I wanted to say for my opening remarks, and that is really about how important you all are. Because you have to ask yourself, what's a Harvard shrink doing here, talking to PE teachers? You know, I mean, what's the deal? The deal is that you guys are so important to our future. You know, much more important than my residents or my medical students, because you impact so many more of our kids. And in a way, I see us all as being very intimate partners. I've had a whole interesting career in changing psychiatry, and I really have, from the very beginning. My efforts in finding new treatments for aggression, understanding it, I was one of the 3 psychiatrists in America who was interested in autism back in the early 80s, and in aggression, and then in attention deficit disorder, which you know about in part from our book, Driven to Distraction, which sold 1.5 million copies, and really opened the door to ADD, and now everybody wants to worry about too much of it. And always, we and I recommended exercise as a treatment for all of our mental health disorders, because it's so essential. We didn't know the science back then, we just knew that it worked. I grew up in a time when the marathon started in Boston, and we could see that people who were well fit and trained, their moods were better, their well-being was better. What was happening, we latched on to the endorphin theory back in the 70s because we had that just discovered. We can't believe what we didn't know back then, but that was now known. We had these internal morphines that help us with pain and help us feel good. And so this is what we thought we were doing with exercise, and sure enough, they do rise, but that's only a very small part of the story. But I think why I've been so active in talking to teachers, and especially PE teachers, is to try to exhort you to think about what you're doing in a very different way, because you have a huge responsibility if you take it, and you need to change the model that you all grew up with, that certainly I grew up with gym teachers. To be a PE teacher, you really have to be a physical educator, which I think should be changed to wellness instructors or wellness teachers, because that's what you should be about. I know what the deal is. Most people go to PE or want to be a PE teacher because they want to coach, and they want to have an athletic team, and that's been the model since, you know, Hector was a pup. Certainly when I was in school, we learned, no one cared about fitness then, that's for sure. But we need to so desperately today, when we're talking about 33% of our kids being overweight and 20% coming into school being obese, and that's the latest statistic, something is really wrong. And it's not just about Burger King and McDonald's. It's not just about the nutrition. It's about our sedentary lives. And yes, we have this wonderful cyber world that we live in. It's given us so much to us, but it's also got us into this situation where we're amusing ourselves to death, where we're taking a break, where we're sitting and not getting out there and moving. And I think that's the major issue. And it's hard because many of you I know are devoted to athletics and coaching and thinking along those lines, but you have a responsibility not just to 20% of your kids who are really don't need you as physical educators. What about the other 75 or 65, whatever the percent is, that aren't participating in activities outside? They're the ones that have been forgotten in the past. They're the ones who hate gym class of old because they've been humiliated, been shamed, they're the last picked, they stand around. You have to change the model. The model is evolving, and thank God, and all I heard since I've been here from the people that I've been hearing about that are physical educators, the model is changing here in Hawaii, which is really great. It's so different than in other states, let me tell you. At least there's an attention to physical fitness. I think, as a psychiatrist and someone who's very interested in cognitive skills, and we need to make our kids smarter and being able to compete in the new world, I really think that you all hold the key. You know, Phil Lawler, who's one of my great heroes, who was the originator of the program at Naperville High School, or junior high, and now Naperville Central, said that the key to many of our problems in our country, the healthcare problem, the problem with the people not being ready for the military, the problem with the lack of resilience in our kids, is all about physical education. And we have to recognize, and it's really true, we have now a generation that's out there and a generation that's coming of very sick kids, you know, very overweight, lacking resilience, lacking motivation, the slacker society, looking